Are you over 40, stuck in your business or your side hustle? Do you find it difficult to attract your ideal clients? This was me a few years ago until I realized the number one most undervalued and underrated skill that most entrepreneurs overlook. And that skill is communication. So in this video, I'm going to share 3 powerful tips that help me to make more impact, income, and influence and scale my business. And you can use these same 3 tips to do the same. You ready? Let's go. Effective communication is the backbone of any successful business or career. And as we age, we become even more critical of our business, of our careers, of the life that we're creating. So in today's fast-paced environment and really in the world, we have to be able to communicate efficiently and effectively. We no longer have the ability to just think that communication is a nice to have, it's a must have. So many people focus on sales funnels and social media and automated messages to sell their products. But here's the thing, every single one of those things, sales, marketing, advertising, requires you to communicate with your potential customers. So whether you're speaking one-on-one with someone, or whether you're on a stage speaking to an audience, or even if you're on a webinar, you have to learn to do these 3 things to build your business and build your brand and make more revenue. The first thing that I had to do, and maybe you have to do to attract your ideal clients, is master your message. So speaking of clarity, I'm not much of a coffee drinker. I don't really drink coffee. I'm more of a hot chocolate person. I'm more of a tea person. But every once in a while, I'll go to a specific coffee shop and I'll watch people, place their orders, these specialty orders, right? With all of these different customizations and, they end up placing this complicated drink order and the barista looks at them like, really? This is what you're ordering, right? And so, I'd sit there and laugh when the barista reports back. So you want a half a calf with a pump of foam and an upside down macchiato, blah, blah, blah. And I just laugh, right? But you see how that's really complicated? And the same with your messaging, like you have to keep it simple. I help X achieve Y by doing Z. So here's one of my sort of pitches and one of my messages. I help amazing entrepreneurs make more impact, income, and influence by teaching them how to speak with clarity, confidence, and conviction through my program, Speak to Impact. See how clear that was? You have to be clear when you're talking to potential customers. So now it's your turn. I want you to leave a comment about your 1-sentence pitch and leave it, and I'll go back and I'll give you some feedback on it. The second communication tip to help you grow your business or take your side hustle to another level is this. Listen like a boss. Okay, real talk, like listening is a superpower. Like, that you've been taught that you have 2 ears for a reason. And it brings me back to my grandma. Like my grandma was this Jamaican grandma, and I remember I would sit and I would just ramble on about all of these different things, and she would just sit attentively and listen for 5 or 10 minutes and nod and say, mm-hmm. And then the next thing she would say would be like, oh, you're really hungry. So let me make you something to eat, right? So, I think our grandmas always know what we need. And for me, it was usually food. So it was an easy guess, right? But you have to always listen, just like my grandma, listen for what you hear and what you don't hear. And I think many of us are so eager to tell people about what we do, our courses, our programs, our products, and our services, that we're not listening. You have to listen. In business, listening is all about attentively looking people in the eye, listening to what they're saying, trying to understand what their problem is, and then repeating back to them that you heard something or you didn't hear something. So whether you're reading social media comments, whether you're speaking one-on-one with a client, or whether you're speaking to an audience, that feedback is so important. We have to listen to what people are saying and listen to what they're not saying about their problems, your products, and your services, And then the key is to craft messages that speak to their wants and needs. See, most of us develop products around what we want and what we think. We have to focus on what our clients need and want and what they're telling us. So in your next meeting, try this. Ask an open-ended question. Ask somebody, when it comes to X, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? And then just listen. Then repeat back what you heard them say. See, when people believe that you understand their problem and that you have thought about it more than they have, and that you possibly have the solution that can help them, that builds trust. And people buy from people that they trust or they know or they like. Isn't that true? So I'm telling you, it's just like being in a marriage, right? Like when you ask your partner like an open-ended question and you listen, you better be prepared to take action. And it might be a long laundry list of things that your partner wants you to do. Not that I'm speaking from experience. But listening is a superpower. And so you have to learn to listen to what your clients want. The third tip is all about speak with confidence. Now let's talk about confidence. If you're over 40, you've already experienced or survived some stuff, right? Let's just be real. You've navigated your career, you may have raised kids, you've been through other challenging relationships, or maybe you started a side hustle or a business, or maybe this one. This is the biggest one of them all. You set up your new smartphone. That is a challenge, right? You've earned that confidence drop if you set up a new smartphone. But seriously, if you've ever figured out how to transfer your contacts from one phone to another, congratulations. But there's one thing about this. Confidence isn't just about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being authentic. It's about being truthful. People can smell fake confidence from a mile away. Like, I know that. You've seen fake people. You've seen people speak that you just didn't believe them. They never had the confidence that they had. And to be honest, I never grew up the most confident person. I grew up in low-income housing. I was surrounded by drugs and crime. I was picked on by, drug dealers. So I wasn't the most confident person. And it was sports and mentors and my grandmother that helped me to build up my confidence. And through sports, I started to shine and I started to be a leader. And that's what started to build my confidence. And I took that confidence that I was learning on the basketball court and the soccer field and started applying that to other areas of my life. Now, fast forward to when I launched my business, I realized that I have to believe in what I'm doing. As a coach, as a teacher, I have to believe in it. So I realized the power of speaking with confidence and how that attracted my ideal clients. My message was clear. I listened to what people wanted, and then I confidently let them know that I could provide the solution that they were looking for. You need to be confident because when you're confident, people want to listen. They want to pay attention to you, and you position yourself as the go-to expert and maybe even authority in what it is that you do. But if you can't communicate consistently and you're not confident, people aren't going to believe you. So here's a quick hack. Before your next meeting or your next pitch, I want you to, it's going to sound funny, I want you to do this superhero pose. I want you to stand up, put your hands on your hip, look up to the sky and say, I'm a confident communicator. I got this. Now, I know it sounds very foolish, but there's something about this power pose. There's something about repeating that I got this. This is my client. I'm gonna land this deal. When you say that to yourself and you're in this kind of superhero pose where you're chest up and you look to the sky, you're instilling this confidence in yourself. You're letting you know that you got this. And it sounds kind of funny, I know. But just try it. Just try it, and see what happens. Most of us go into conversations or difficult conversations or sales pitches or, going to speak on a stage, we're not confident. And so we have to learn to instill that confidence in us before we even start that conversation, that speech, or that webinar. Someone who was an amazing communicator was Steve Jobs. He learned how to master communication. Whether you love him or hate him, Steve Jobs changed so many industries. You can't deny his impact. When Jobs returned back to Apple in the late 1990s, the company was about to go bankrupt. They were about to collapse. And it wasn't because they didn't have amazing products. It was because their messaging was all over the place. Their messaging was off, their communication was off, and Jobs knew that he could save Apple, but he had to do these three things. He had to learn to clarify the message, he had to learn to listen, and he had to learn to deliver with confidence. And so first, Jobs, he listened. He paid close attention to what people really wanted, not just what they were saying, but what they needed. People didn't just want more powerful computers. They wanted simpler, more intuitive, easier to use. And so that was the first thing that he learned. Think about it. The iPod wasn't the first media player. It was the first to promise 1,000 songs in your pocket. Very clear, simple, powerful messaging. The next thing that Steve Jobs did was he mastered the message. He wasn't selling products, he was selling a vision. Like, think different. That was the campaign. He got you to think different. It inspired people to see themselves as creative rebels, kind of as, innovators, as different. And finally, he spoke with confidence. Jobs he wasn't flashy. He came out in jeans and a black shirt. It was a very simple, his gestures weren't all over the place. He was just very simple and to the point. And when he unveiled the iPhone, it wasn't just like a product launch, it was a performance. Like, he captivated the audience. And I remember seeing Jobs and he said, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. I thought, wow, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. So what's the lesson here? Steve Jobs can change the world with communication, imagination. So think about what you can do as a business owner if you listen to what people are saying, you have clear messages, and you speak with confidence. You won't just grow your business, you'll build, this amazing following of people who become evangelists for your products and your services. So what's your next move? Master your message, listen like a boss, and speak with confidence. It doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, 50, or older. These are powerful moves that you can make right now to make more impact, income, and influence. Learn to master your communication skills and you will attract your ideal customers. If you really love this video, I want you to check out this next one right here on how to master your message. Check it out.